Welcome back. Well, on Monday evening, when the Minister of Basic Education, Angie Motshekga, announced the class of 2013 and their achievements, she also mentioned a partnership with Wits University in the form of the Wits Equality Scholarships. Well, the scholarships cover all tuition and residence fees, textbooks, food, costs of living, allowance, etc. The vice-chancellor and principal of the University of Witwatersrand now, Professor Adam Habib, is here looking very wonderful in his new 2014 haircut. He's going to talk to us about the scholarship. Prof, it's a very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. You know, the haircut is a product of a wife who put me under pressure.
Viva to the wife. Looking good, looking good. That's going to be a good year, I can tell by your haircut. I'm going to start by reading the university's media statement. I want you to expand and elaborate on something for me, if you will. It says that the scholarship will create hope in society and create meaningful transition. What do you mean by that?
Well, one of the problems is that what has happened in the higher education system is the people from the poorest parts of the community tend to land up at the weakest universities, because those universities are either cheaper, and really research-intensive universities, the top universities in the country, because they're more expensive, because they focus on a whole series of programs that are much more expensive programs, tend to become the preserve of the rich and the upper middle classes, or those that have a significant amount of bursaries. And that's clearly unacceptable, because if we have talented people in poor communities, they should be entitled to the best institutions as much as rich people do. And the big question was how to do it. So if you come to a place, if you're in a rural school, if you come to a place like Wits, you're in the middle of Johannesburg. Johannesburg is an expensive city. Even if you can cover the fees, you can't cover the residences. Even if you can find money for the residences, you can't cover the transport costs, those kinds of things. And so what we decided to do is to say, look, we still want to work, we want to find talented people in poor communities, and we want to provide them with access to Wits University. And so what we created was the Equality Scholarship. Now, at the moment, we have a Vice-Chancellor Scholarship. And the Vice-Chancellor Scholarship is for the top 10 people in the country. But the people who tend to benefit from it are either private school students,
who already have the means.
Who already have the means, the Model C schools, people from Model C schools. Because you can't take people in private schools and Model C schools and say you're on an equal footing to quintile 1 and 2 schools that don't have the facilities. And so what we decided to do is say it's not fair. And so we created the same scholarship, but we created it only for students in quintile 1 and 2. So we have 2 scholarships now. One, the top 10, and the second, the top 10 in quintile 1 and 2. And so in that sense, we create the possibilities for equaling the playing field. The scholarship is of 100,000 rand, so it's a very rich, it's for the entire degree, provided you achieve your pass rates. And if you then achieve those pass rates, what you can do is get your degree, get a job, and then put back into the very same community from which you came, in a hope having a ripple effect across the society. Now, inequality is one of our big challenges as a society. And this is Wits's small contribution to helping various stakeholders, including government, address inequality.
Now, we spoke to the MEC for Education in Gauteng, Barbara Creasy, a moment or two ago. So she's hoping to bridge the gap, that one day there will be such a thing as the top 10 nationally, and it will include those who come through from quintile 1 and 2, as you said, public schools, private schools of all different places in South Africa. So there is that aspiration. But at the moment, there is the divide, and it's necessary to bridge that divide by choosing top 10 that do come from more affluent communities, and also top 10 for those who are from previously disadvantaged communities.
If you simply go to any private school or any Model C school and then take a ride into a school in a rural area, and you will notice the fundamental differences between these schools. The schools in the rural areas often do not have libraries. They do not have textbooks. They do not have sporting
laboratories. Yeah.
They do not have laboratories. If you do not have laboratories and get an A in physics, sure, you had a student with incredible capacity and incredible talent. Imagine what could happen if we create the kinds of circumstances for you to perform on an equal playing field. And that's what this is all about. Now, I wish we could do it for everybody, but we can't. So what we're doing is we're focusing on the top end. It's still merit-based. It's the top 10 in quintile 1 and 2. So we get the top 10 names from the Department of Basic Education, which is why it's a partnership. and then we provide them with a full scholarship.
I want to discuss the issue of private-public partnership. Now, I was at a public lecture that you gave, and I know you didn't see me in the crowd there, but I listened to something that you said, which gave me a glimpse as to what you're working towards there at Wits. I think it was on the collusion in the construction industry. And you had said that instead of giving them fines, what form of retribution you would have wanted to see is if they took the money they're supposed to pay as fines and invested them in the communities, developed in the infrastructure of the communities there, which said to me there that your heart is for development. Tell us a bit about the role that the public sector and the private sector can come together in order to make South Africa work, really work.
You see, this is our big challenge. Inequality is our big challenge in our society. We have poverty and we can address poverty, but we also need to address inequality, because what inequality does is it polarizes society. It destroys hope in the society. And the only way we're going to do that is to start creating the infrastructure and the facilities for poor people to perform exactly the same as rich people can. And that means government doesn't have enough capacity to fund all of this. It means we have to come together. And the ways to do that is the big issue. The only way we can seriously think about is the private sector and the public sector coming together and starting to say, how can we work together to address these challenges? And there are imaginative ways that we could do it. In the construction industry, as I said, instead of giving them $1.5 billion fine, if you forced all of those companies that had done untoward things to go and develop schools in rural areas, in the Eastern Cape, in Limpopo, etc., it would have a far more dramatic impact on our society. One of the big challenges we have is we have 200 places in medical school. At the moment, we get 22,000 applications for 200 places. Many more qualified students we could take, but we can't take them because we just don't have the places. One of the things I'd like to do is sit down and speak to the private sector and say, invest in our infrastructure, allow us to expand, and you will benefit, because these doctors that come out of there will be employed by you. So this is a win-win situation.
It's a win-win situation. Prof, I know you and I can go on and on and on about this, but thank you so much for letting us pick your brain and giving us your thoughts and insights. And Professor Adam Habib there is the Vice-Chancellor at the University of Witwatersrand, speaking to us about that equality scholarship, those scholarships up for grabs. And it's something to which the class of 2014 can aspire. So there we go. Right now, look at what the weather has in store.